the silent genius. Drongen was small, quiet, and mostly gray, the kind of town where nothing ever really changed. Except for one boy, a red-haired child with ice-blue eyes who rarely spoke, but whose feet never stopped moving. Kevin De Bruyne was different. Not loud, not popular, but precise even as a child. He didn't talk much, not because he was shy, but because he was always thinking, observing, listening. At school, he sat alone. On the playground, he stood apart. He didn't fit into the noisy groups or flashy games. His world revolved around one thing, the ball. In muddy fields and concrete alleys, Kevin would kick the ball against brick walls for hours. Left foot, right foot, again and again. The rhythm of it became his language, his way of speaking when words failed him. But silence came with a cost. At age 14, during a youth training camp, a coach told him something that would sting for years. You don't talk. You don't smile. I don't think teams will want to live with you. Not, you're not good enough. Not, you lack talent. Just this, you're not likable enough to succeed. That night, Kevin sat on the edge of his bunk and stared at the floor. He didn't cry. He didn't argue. He just made a decision. If they wouldn't like him, they'd have to respect him. He doubled his training, practiced alone, ate alone, and when the weekend came, he played like a boy possessed. Goals, assists, passes no one saw coming. The coach watched. The scouts noticed. And for the first time, the silent boy from Drongen was heard. Not through his voice, but through his vision. Still, even as he rose through Jenks Academy, the loneliness never left. He bounced between foster homes, often carrying just a small suitcase and a football. One host family once asked him, "Why don't you ever speak?" He answered simply, "Because nobody ever listens." But Kevin kept playing. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. But he was precise, ruthlessly so. Every touch, every turn, every pass was stitched with thought. At 17, he made his professional debut for Genk. The stadium roared. Kevin didn't. No celebration, no fist pump, just a quiet jog back to his position. Eyes focused, mind already on the next move. This was how he would survive. Not with charisma, not with charm, but with clarity, with vision, with a kind of brilliance no noise could replicate. They told him he wouldn't make it, that he didn't have the character, the personality. They were wrong. He wasn't loud, but he was listening, watching, building something no one else could see. The betrayal that built him. Kevin De Bruyne had earned his place in the spotlight. At Genk, he wasn't just playing, he was commanding. Still young, still reserved, but now dangerous. With each match, his reputation grew. He wasn't just the quiet kid from Drongen anymore. He was the future of Belgian football. And then came the call. Chelsea, the Premier League, a dream too big to ignore. The transfer made headlines, but Kevin didn't celebrate. He trained harder, studied more. He knew England wouldn't be easy. Faster tempo, tougher players, less time to think. But he came prepared. Pre-season was sharp. Assists, energy, intent. He had done enough, or so he thought. Then, silence. Matchday squads were posted. His name wasn't there. 1 week, 2, then a month. Mourinho didn't see him the way others had. He saw a young, quiet player who didn't fit his system. And Kevin? He saw his future, suddenly locked behind a closed door. In a team filled with stars, Kevin disappeared. Not because he lacked talent, but because no one handed him the key. Matches passed him by. He watched from the bench. Sometimes the stands. The same old voice returned. "You're not wanted." In private meetings, he was told to be patient, to wait, to prove himself. But how do you prove anything when no one lets you play? Kevin started to unravel, not on the pitch but inside. Doubt crept in. Had he made a mistake? Was the silent boy still being overlooked? Even now? Then came the moment that changed everything. In a meeting with Mourinho, Kevin laid out the facts. "I played only a few matches. I had 1 goal and 1 assist. Others had more chances. I just want to play." Mourinho agreed, not by giving him minutes but by letting him go. He was transferred to Wolfsburg, To many, it looked like a step down, a quiet exit, another talent discarded by a big club. But Kevin saw it differently. This wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of the rewrite. In Wolfsburg, he was given space and freedom. And with that, the world saw what Chelsea never did. A visionary, a technician, an architect of attacks. He led the Bundesliga in assists. He tore through defenses with passes that bent logic. There were no tricks, no flamboyance, just terrifying precision. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation. Every pass in Germany was a whisper to those who doubted him. You should have listened. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. The boy who was once benched now owned the field. But this was just the beginning. The architect of Manchester. When Kevin De Bruyne signed for Manchester City in 2015, the English press greeted him with raised eyebrows and recycled headlines. Chelsea flop returns to Premier League. They remembered the bench, the silence. But they didn't know the version of Kevin that was coming back. Pep Guardiola did. Pep didn't see a reject, he saw an artist. Not a flashy dribbler or a media star, but something rarer. A player who saw the game 2 steps before anyone else. He gave Kevin a canvas, and Kevin began to paint. At first, the pace of English football seemed unforgiving. But Kevin adapted. He didn't chase the game, he bent it to his will. Like a conductor raising a baton, he controlled tempo, controlled space, controlled silence. One pass at a time. There was no need to dance past defenders. He didn't trick you, he timed you. A diagonal ball slicing through a packed defense. A no-look assist threaded between chaos. A cross delivered with surgical cruelty. It wasn't magic. It was mathematics disguised as instinct. Inside the dressing room, he remained the same. Focused, quiet, obsessed with detail. While others sought the spotlight, Kevin studied angles, opponents, wind, pressure, distance. He wasn't interested in fame, he was building blueprints. And City followed them. Under his vision, Manchester City didn't just win, they dominated. The midfield became his laboratory. Guardiola often said Kevin was one of the best I've ever coached. Not just for his skill, but for his mind. And yet, his greatness never demanded attention. No celebrations with choreographed dances. No extravagant interviews. When he scored, he turned and jogged back. Face unreadable, already planning the next move. He was the heartbeat of a dynasty, and he beat with quiet force. Key moments piled up like blueprints stacked on a desk. An assist against Real Madrid, placed between shadows. A thunderbolt goal in a Manchester derby, greeted with stunned silence. A Champions League final, played through pain until his face was fractured. Through it all, Kevin remained as precise as ever. The numbers spoke loudly. Record-breaking assists, Player of the Year honors, trophies stacked like chapters in a legacy. But the real story was this. In a game obsessed with noise, he built an empire through vision. And yet, even in his prime, he stayed distant from the limelight. A reminder that brilliance doesn't always raise its voice. Kevin De Bruyne didn't just change games. He designed them. He wasn't a playmaker. He was the blueprint. But behind every design, every masterpiece, lies a cost. And Kevin's price for greatness was always paid in silence. And in pain. Scars, silence, and legacy. Greatness rarely comes without wounds. Kevin De Bruyne knows this better than most. He has spent much of his career on the edge of brilliance, of collapse, of silence. While others lifted trophies with roaring crowds, Kevin often limped off the field, bruised, broken, and barely seen. The 2021 Champions League final was supposed to be his moment. The stage was set. Manchester City's first final, the world watching. But then came the collision. A shoulder to the face. A fractured orbital bone. He left the field in tears, not because of the pain, but because he couldn't finish what he started. 2 years later, in another final, he pulled up again. Torn hamstring. The camera cut away quickly, but the story was the same. He gave until his body gave out. Behind every assist, every pass, every inch of control, there was sacrifice. Kevin never complained. No public rants. No interviews blaming luck or fate. He simply recovered, rebuilt, returned. He knew the cost of his craft. He paid it willingly. But pain wasn't only physical. In 2022, Belgium's golden generation fell apart at the World Cup. Expectations were high. Kevin was expected to lead. But what happens when a conductor loses his orchestra? He tried, but the rhythm was gone. The team fractured. The dream collapsed. And again, Kevin stood alone, the scapegoat for a nation's disappointment. Still, he returned to Manchester, quieter than ever, focused, unshaken. Off the pitch, he became a different kind of leader, a father of three, a husband, a man who guarded his private life fiercely. He didn't chase attention, he built a home, a life rooted in stability, far from the spotlight he earned but never sought. He began to mentor younger players, not